A video game theme song, as a performer, it's another chance to be relevant. When I first started, Hollywood was not interested in video games. Now I would not have a chance in hell of getting a job. They're going worldwide. I'd like to say I'm the voice of the Shinkansen, but that doesn't really cut it. If I spoke like I did on the Shinkansen, people would probably say, I recognize that voice, but I don't talk like this in real life.
Hey there, and thank you for tuning in. We're excited to bring you another great conversation today. If you like the show and want to support us, please hit the subscribe button so we can keep bringing you great content week after week. And if you're feeling extra generous, give this video a like and share your thoughts and comments down below. Thank you so much. And now, let's get into it. Welcome to Unpacking Japan. I'm Toby, and for this episode, we are sitting in a studio with Donna Burke. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
You are a voice actress, a singer. You've been the voice of some famous characters of games such as Silent Hill 2 and 3. You've been doing concerts such as the Metal Gear concert. And some people may recognize your voice for being the announcer voice on the Shinkansen.
That's my most famous job.
To this day. And so
to
we're going
this day.
Go into how this came to be and how this all happened. But let's start the story at the very beginning.
Okay.
What brought you to Japan?
What brought me to Japan? Well, I didn't want to go back to Australia. I think that I was in London, I'd run out of money. If I went back to Australia from London, it would be exactly the same old life, teaching high school. And I wanted to prolong my journeys outside of Australia. So I just got a job in Japan and had no preconceived ideas. I wasn't a Japanophile, and I've never left.
It's interesting because, so you're from Australia, you were in London, but then your next choice is Japan. Although, as you just stated, no prerequisite or no contact with Japan prior. How did that even come into the options of your next destination? I
had people say, this is in the early 1990s and mid. So I came here in 1996. I remember people saying, oh, Donna, you should go to Japan because it was bubble. And I can't even sing, and I got all these singing jobs. And I remember that stuck in the back of my head. If you can sing, there's a great need for singers. So I think that's what, and I was 31 and had nothing to lose. And when I got here, as soon as I got here, I started making heaps of money singing at weddings and then recordings, and I felt like I'd hit the jackpot. It was fantastic.
What was it like moving from London to Japan? Do you remember your first day kind of arriving here and kind of stepping into, I'm imagining, Tokyo?
I remember it was cold. So I come from a warm place, but I remember for 1,200 yen, which seemed very expensive at the time, I had a beautiful cup of tea served and the Japanese baked cheesecake. And I remember sitting in a hotel lobby waiting to be picked up because I had an English teaching job, and just feeling so elegant, and the tea was perfect, and the Japanese wait staff just placed it so perfectly, and then just turned the thing. It was just like for the big girl coming from Australia, just the elegance. I'll never forget it. Yeah.
That's a striking first memory.
Yeah.
And you came as a teacher, but you mentioned you have been looking into singing without necessarily having the background.
Well, let me just stop you there, Tobias. I was quite a good singer in Perth. I sang at a lot of funerals. I sang at a lot of weddings. I'm being sarcastic. I'm being sarcastic here. So I had singing training, but I never ever thought that I could make a living as a singer. And in fact, I still don't, but we'll get to that later. But the high quality jobs of, beautiful recording studios, JVC Victor, Sound City, live orchestras, just the level that I was parachuted into I knew I was the luckiest girl on earth, and there was no competition. So it was like Donna, or there would be 4 people that they could choose from. So it was great.
So how did that get started? Did you reach out to these jobs? Did you see listings online somewhere? Did you see listings?
Well, back in those days, there was no online. It was just this thing called the Tokyo Notice Board, and I think there was a Metropolis existed, and I got into recording through answering an ad about singing at weddings, and then through that, someone from the wedding jobs needed a recording artist, and I quickly learned that no one cared anything about, they didn't know like, oh, where did you study? Did you study at Berkeley? Or no one cared. They just judged you on your demo tape. And I had a demo tape from Australia. So, and then if you got on time and you were pleasant and you didn't throw anything furniture around, everyone just thought you were marvellous and you got recommended, and it just sort of snowball.
Word of mouth from one wedding to the next.
Yeah, it was great.
Did you have any culture shocks at those weddings? Like maybe having experienced some Western weddings before, and suddenly being transported onto the main stage of a wedding in Japan, which are quite different than what we're familiar with?
Yeah, because in Japan they love to sing Amazing Grace, whereas we only sing that at funerals.
Oh.
And so that was like strange. And there were also the priests or fake priests, so it's just a performance. And how swiftly the wedding, every 30 minutes you do another one, which is great for me because I'd earn lots of money for each wedding. And then attending my first wedding party as how short their wedding parties are, like 2 hours and 15 minutes. And they've done 5 courses. The bride has changed twice. You've sung 3 songs. It's just incredibly efficient, whereas our weddings, you go to a wedding and then you don't, it lasts all day.
And it's very timed to the minute.
To the minute.
You cannot overextend. The people from the hotel will shush you around.
Because there's another one coming, later that day.
So you start out performing at weddings, performing funerals and doing these things. But then eventually, somehow, you get to work with Hideo Kojima.
Yes, he's a very lucky guy. I'm sure he gets asked a lot. Tell me, what was it like working with Donna Burke? No. But I didn't know who he was. I didn't even know who I've been introduced to Stan Lee. I didn't even know who he was. I could tell by context that he was a big deal. I was like, oh, hello, and how are you? This was at Metal Gear's 25th anniversary party, which I cut short to go to an improv practice, which I was hosting at my house. The things I've done, I have like cut short recordings with Kojima-san because I forgot that I had NHK.
Maybe it's better not to know who you're dealing with, right? Otherwise, the pressure might deter you from even trying.
And no, even though people are telling me, this is Kojima, I've never. If they said it was Jane Austen, I've read all her books. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a huge fan, Jane Austen. Oh my God, that's so great. But it's just like saying it's Jack Smith. He's the the fly fishing champion of the world. And I'm like, oh, that's good. I'm not into fly fishing, but good for you.
So how did that come to be? Because I'm sure we have a few fans listening to Kojima's work and who are interested and for sure have heard your voice in some of the games and the concerts.
Well, funnily enough, Kojima-san tweeted this year about how I got the job of singing When Heavens Divide. So my recollection is that they had somebody else in mind, and can you just put down a demo track? This is just a demo. But I thought they had like Mariah Carey in mind. So I went big. I was like, they've got this massive superstar in mind, and I'm just going to record this with the composer in Roppongi in Tokyo. But then in the tweet this year, he said they wanted Natasha Farrow, who'd sung A Calling to the Night. They wanted her to sing When Heavens Divide. She wasn't available. And at the time, I ran an agency called DAG Music, which booked singers and voice actors and whatever. And so he asked DAG Music, oh, can you get another singer? my agency put me forward, and we'll get her. And then they kind of liked my version, and they kept hearing my version, and they got used to my version. And so that's how I got the job. And he was like, oh, we asked the president of the agency, who happened to be Donna Burke, and then that's how we ended. Like, I was like, really? That's what happened? But anyway.
So you found out just recently about how you even got the opportunity. I'm curious about how it's like now working with a big company like that has this, I'm imagining, decent production behind, because it's a big game. There's a big audience waiting for the song, so it has to be on point. How are the processes for you once you're selected and you actually start working with them on getting the song done and getting the one that is going to be heard by so many fans?
Well, for When Heavens Divide, I think I did a couple of demos, but I really wasn't involved. But for as soon as When Heavens Divide came out, like in 2010, Kojima told me very excitedly backstage one day, I want you to sing another song. I want you to sing the next song. You're going to sing the next song. So around the end of 2012, the composer, Akihiro Honda and Ludwig, I think, came to my studio at the time, and I recorded 2 different songs, and Kojima said, that he liked that. But Kojima said, can you take that bit from that song and that bit and make a new one? And that's what became Sins of the Father. I always was like, am I allowed to say this? And I was like, it's fine. It's just this. But, it was top secret. And they said, you're not going to write the lyrics, Donna. Oh, can I write the lyrics? You're not going to write the lyrics. But I can write the lyrics. You're not going to write the lyrics. Okay, fine. So I just made up lyrics because they wanted me to, to sing. It's just really weird to sing a song, la, 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 la.
So just the vocals, basically.
Yeah, they wanted me to sing, do a demo with no vocals. And I said, I realise I'm not going to sing the lyrics, but just let me write down some. And it was so weird, kind of, how some of what I wrote and my lyrics were the same as what Ludwig. So, spoiler alert, actually, I won't spoil it because people haven't played the game, but like some of the lines that I wrote were so similar to what ended up being, because the music communicated what the song was about. Like that's this song, Sins of the Father. If you haven't listened to it, please go and listen to it. It's a beast. And Kojima was very involved in taking 2, bits of it, songs, and then making this mega beast of a song. And then I got to hear it for years and years. And then that was 2013. It was E3 came out. I didn't know. I didn't know what was going to happen in the game. And then finally the game came out in 2015. So it is a long time of knowing. I'm singing this amazing song, but you can't say anything. And
yeah, I'm curious about the timeline for these kind of
so
projects,
long.
right? Because of course there's a game production until the game release, but you're contributing one part of this, which is the song. So for your involvement in the game, from the moment, let's say they ask you, oh, can you produce this song for this game? How long are you working on this? Maybe on and off.
Yeah,
but
2 years. For 2 years, and then so they flew me to Los Angeles, and I got to record in this amazing, studio called Capitol Records Studio. But I got a terrible cold on the way over, and so if you listen to Sins of the Father, you'll hear light is the deepest. And I was trying to use everything to sort of not have a cold, but in that first, I think I sound a little bit nasally. So that's a little, I've never shared that with anyone, Tobias, so that's a little scoop.
It's a world premiere.
Well, it's not really, every time I listen to it, I'm like, damn, that cold!
How do you manage something like that as a singer? Because I can imagine there are performances that you can just push back if you're not feeling too well. But there are some things where, everything, they fly you in, the recording date is set, you have to be there, we need to meet the deadline.
I just drugged myself on heaps of coding, because I had a sore throat as well. It was bad. And I remember also I had jet lag. So I was just like in the studio and they're like, Donna, you have to, wake up. We're going to do another take. And there was a lot of, I did 2 songs. Like there was Quiet's theme, which eventually Stephanie Houston got to sing. And that was sort of, ha, 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 ha. And it's really hard to sing. The most difficult singing is soft singing. When you hear someone bawl something out, that's easy. But singing soft is really hard. So, but I did it.
You did it.
I did it.
And the song turned out great, and many fans enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'm curious now, because you mentioned you recorded that in LA, so I'm imagining you've got experience recording at studios in the US, maybe other countries as well, but also, of course, obviously here in Japan. How different is it when you're working here in a studio in Japan, maybe with a Japanese co-workers or a Japanese team, and the recording process compared to how things happen perhaps overseas?
I think if you're recording at a top level, it's like Capitol Records. It's like a world-class studio. So I think it's pretty similar to world-class Japanese studios. I noticed though they had in America they had heaps of special teas for singers, and a Chinese tisane and throat coat, and so I'm thinking they're used to people being more diva-ish in America, because I'm like, wow, we don't get this in Japan. This was really nice, but I have to say, singing with symphonic orchestras has been a bit of a shock, because I started off first of all with the Osaka Symphony with Metal Gear in concert in 2017, and then Tokyo Philharmonic. Nearly every year I performed with them, and it's just like a dream. And Kyoto, Tokyo, it's just, everything's just perfectly, what do you want in your bento, and here it is, and here's lots of water, and here's your room. It's all just lovely. And then my first time in overseas was the US, and they've got union rules. There's no union in Japan, so the rehearsals were going for hours.
There are unions, but maybe less involved and less implicated.
I've never heard, or they've never impacted on anything. Like, you're lucky to get this job, and there's no, and it was shocking. It was a massive shock. So
well organized and structured here in Japan, and in the US it's a bit more where's what, and you have to run after things, and people are running all over the place. And
no, not from that. It was just it's just like in America, time is money, and so we're going to book just this much time for the rehearsal space. Oh, you haven't finished. Well, that's sorry. You booked 3 hours. Next. Whereas, like in Japan, like we're going to rehearse this until it's perfect. And we'll take breaks, and we'll provide lunch and dinner and stuff. But so I remember in Los Angeles, the conductor turning to me and saying, "You don't need to practice the whole of Sins of Father, do you, Donna?" And I could just see the bead, the sweat of bead, the bead of sweat, and reading the room, and like, no. It's just the most difficult song that anyone's ever sung, but no, I'm fine. Whereas that would never happen it was just so much more organised in Japan and relaxed, because there's this time. And the other thing in the unions, like maybe they've just been abused. The musicians have been abused so badly that they're just like, you know what? If you don't pay us, we're not going to play. So it's just a completely different. I'm pro-union. I love unions. Terrific. It's just very sad that unions, people have to unionize to get treated well. Whereas I feel like in Japan, we're treated well.
So there are some differences, and you've worked on multiple projects now. Another person that you've collaborated with is Yoko Kanno. Some people may recognize the name. Some people may recognize some of the games that person has composed music for, such as anime, perhaps. Cowboy Bebop comes to mind, one of my personal favorites. Can you tell me about how
she's lovely. And she's got a voice that's quite high. So, I met her in 2000, and just seeing this sort of chirpy woman walk into a very male space. Often it's just male producers, male. It was like, wow, who is she? Oh, she's the composer of this song that you're going to sing. I sang a song for her for Gundam in 2001. And okay, are you ready, Donna? Hey, and off, like just she was feminine power, and she wasn't trying to be tough or anything. She was just like, I'm above it all. I'm talented. I'm just myself, and it really made a massive impression on me. And then I've worked with her on quite a few commercials as well, television commercials back in the day. But she's a delight, yeah, and a trailblazer.
Working on so many different projects, from game voiceovers to performing some game music to commercials. Do you have like a personal preference of things you like to work on, coming from singing for weddings?
Actually, singing for weddings is really cool.
Yeah.
There is something, even if it's a fake one, like fake. There's something magical about watching two people commit themselves to each other, and another wedding. But then when it comes to that special thing, I'm like, I'm so lucky to be here to witness that. So I forgot what the question was.
If you have a preferred type of music project that you like to work on, whether it's game songs or game voices, or if you prefer like concerts, you work with the Osaka Philharmonic.
I think a video game theme song is amazing. Anime, because as a performer, it's another chance to be relevant. It's another chance to like I remember when Metal Gear dropped in 2015. I'm like, am I going to be one of those people signing things at a Comic-Con in my 80s, and this is my last game, and people come out, I remember Metal Gear, it's one of my most favourite games, and I'd be like, yes, well. And then just, it was a real fear of like, is this it? Fortunately, I've had other work come. So I feel like any job offer has the potential to be exciting and great. I love singing live. I think nothing beats connecting with the fans. I could cry with right now from, it is like a drug. I've never done drugs, but I hear it's like the adrenaline, the excitement, the shared respect in this incredible auditorium, 70 musicians, and then all those vibrations going through your body, and then like someone's, it's just chilly. It's so exciting. It's nothing. And then the fans afterwards, and being able to, what a gift. So
I can feel the emotion from your experiences, and the memories coming back from standing on that stage.
Yeah. So last year we did NHK Hall. And then we had I found the original singer of Snake Eater, and I want to take credit for that because actually I didn't. A American reporter discovered the original singer of Snake Eater, which I sing in Metal Gear in concert. And was, where is she? And she tracked her down. And basically, Cynthia Harrell had been hiding in plain sight on Facebook as, get this, Cynthia Harrell. And it had, everyone was acting like, well, where is she? So she was there all along. And having her have the original singer who hadn't been in Japan for 20 years come back and sing, that was really exciting.
When I asked you if you have a preferred job, you said you enjoyed them all equally, and you were a bit scared of Metal Gear being kind of like, is this the last one? Am I going to be in a Comic-Con? But then you said you found some other jobs. One of those other jobs that your voice is now perhaps even more known for is the Shinkansen voice.
Yes, but no, I've had that job for 20 years, Tobias.
How did that come to be? How did you end up being the voice that all those millions of people that travel with the Shinkansen daily hear?
Yeah, they wanted someone who lived in Japan and who wasn't going to leave and who could mimic the woman before. That's how I got it. I'm a very good mimic. I could mimic you right now.
So you had to mimic the voice?
So you had to mimic the voice?
Of the Japanese announcer?
No, of the lady before she was a Canadian who was mimicking a British woman.
Oh wait, so originally there was a British woman that made the voice for the Shinkansen, and then they hired a Canadian woman who had to do the more or less same voice, and then they hired you to keep the same voice of the original one?
That's it.
Why not just do a new voice, especially now you've been doing this for 20 years?
Because it would be jarring to the Japanese. So when I got in there, and mind you, what was this, 2002, and it was like, Mokai, yeah, more smile, motto smile. Like they're just, all those people have gone, most of them. They're all lovely JR people now. But I was like, this intonation seems sort of la da 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 dun dun da da dun dun da 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 da. Like, why can't we do da 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 da? Like, no, we have to have it the same. Like, we want to have maybe people won't even realize it's a new voice. We don't want to jolt them into, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Shinkansen. This is no. You have to do it just like the lady before.
How many takes did it take for you to get the voice right?
Well, once I got into my head, they're not interested in they're not interested in what you can do. All they need is a mimic. I was like, I can mimic this. So I just totally mimicked the woman before, got the job.
For 20 years now, it's been your voice.
Yes.
Do you have to do retakes regularly when they update the line?
Yes. In fact, next week I have one.
Okay.
So I think it's more, ever since inbound tourism skyrocketed, there's been lots more announcements about oversized suitcases. So I think this one's more about oversized suitcases for people in the green car. Maybe they've got a special spot. When they invented Wi-Fi, I had to do, every year I do little updates.
So then they call you in, they're like, we have a new line of text for you to read, and basically
they play my voice from before. I go, I mimic myself, so it sounds pretty much the same, except for when there's a disaster, then my voice goes down a little bit, because it's not so smiley.
Voice acting and doing voices like this, to me, is always very difficult. I don't do it much, but occasionally here I have to read some text for dubbing some videos here at work.
Taking work away from me. Okay, fine.
Unless you speak French and you can do French dubbing.
I could pretend to speak French with accent and shoulder like this, no problem.
Close enough.
My husband actually speaks French, and when he starts speaking, I'm sure he does this.
Shoulder movement.
And then the little shoulder movement.
But it's very difficult to get the intonations right, to get the pace right, to match things. I can imagine it has nothing to do with singing and performing on stage. Did you practice differently for just like the voice, or is it just a skill that you learn by basically working with your voice all the time?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of character in there too. Like if you're very perfectionist or sort of and some say no, do it again, it could be like hurt your feelings. And there are times where I say, stop telling me to do it again, tell me what's wrong and I'll fix it. But I think I've trained in improvisation, a lot of improv, and most of the time, nearly 99% of the time, the directors are wonderful and lovely, and they can tell you exactly what they're looking for. So,
your voice being in a video game, it may be recognizable to the people who play, but your voice being on the Shinkansen, which so many people use, I can imagine that maybe some people recognize you when you're talking at
It's only happened a couple of times, and I think mainly they saw me because I've been on some TV shows. Who's that voice? You know, Japanese TV shows, but my voice is completely different. So, how would I say? Tobias, if I spoke like I did on the Shinkansen, people would probably say, I recognize that voice, but I don't talk like this in real life.
Maybe in a way it's good then that you got to do the voice of someone else for the Shinkansen.
Maybe it is good. But I've got a friend, Kimberly Forsyth. She actually talks like this in her real life. And so she does Drive Your Dreams, and this is NTT. She sounds exactly like that in real life, so I'm sure she gets it way more than me.
Have you done some other kind of voices for other announcements?
My most famous one, my most dramatic one, and I forgot about this. Did you have the earthquake on New Year's Day here?
Yes.
Right? Did your phones go, earthquake, earthquake?
So
that was me.
Kind of worried about this because every time there's like an earthquake drill or something like this, everyone's phone in the office goes off except for mine. And I don't know why. I don't know if there's a setting, but
did your phone go off? Okay, did you hear me?
So we all heard.
Earthquake, earthquake,
So that's you.
That's
you recorded
me.
That.
So here we are on the earthquake, and everything's. And there was a kind of a one. There was one. Someone. I was at my cabin, and someone held the television, and then we kept talking, and then everyone's phone. There was 5 people's phones going earthquake, earthquake, and I stood up, and I was like, "That's my voice. That's my voice." And instead of like going for safety, I was just like. Because I'd forgotten I'd recorded that. Because I recorded that like 5 years ago and I hadn't heard it.
And still in use ever since.
Well, I think they rested it. I don't know, nothing seemed to have happened for... I'd completely forgotten about it. But now... So maybe you'll hear my voice next time there's an earthquake.
You got into this singing, voice acting industry here in Japan. You mentioned in the late 90s. How has it changed since you have basically worked on so many projects for different companies, different partners? Have you seen an evolution and change in how things are done?
I think there's definitely less work. I think people are using AI more. Like, for example, you're saying just even doing a marker voice that someone else is going to come over. Now you just get AI to be a placeholder voice. There's definitely, I think also when the 2011 earthquake happened, everything, all sort of voice acting, a lot of singing work completely dried up. So if you're singing live, people are like, we don't really want to have a live band because so many people are suffering in Tohoku. So for about a year and a half, it was like hardly any jobs. It was awful. And then, also, I've been here such a long time. Yeah, first it was a crash the financial crash in 2007, but then the earthquake, we're just getting back from that. And then the earthquake happened, and that was sort of devastating you can't have parties, you can't be cheerful, you can't have, like lavish displays of woohoo, because people are suffering. And that really affected a lot of work. And I think also, when I first started, Hollywood was not interested in video games. So I got the lead role in Silent Hill 3. I had a major role in Silent Hill 2. There's no way that Japan would be casting from a small pool of actors who just happen to be based in Japan. They're going worldwide. So I feel like I would not have a chance in hell of getting a job because, they can get a Hollywood actor who's a huge fan of, Kojima, who was like, I want to be in your next game. And he'd be like, oh my God, I love you. No, I love you more. And so, that's how things would happen.
But you did get the lead role in Silent Hill 3.
I did.
And you played Claudia Wolf, right?
I did. I think it's a different world, though. So I feel incredibly lucky. Of course, I'm talented, but now there'd just be no like they've got Leah. Sorry, they've got Leah. What's that French actress? Leah.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. The name escapes me.
Beautiful. She was in the Bond movie. You know, she was in Death Stranding.
Yeah, Léa Seydoux.
Yeah, she was like. Yeah, it's really sad. I did all the motion capture for the Silent Hill 2 and 3, and back then, you know, the computers could only last for 30 seconds. So, and they'd be constantly breaking down because they just didn't have enough RAM. And so now the technology is just incredible of what you can do with motion capture, and you can do long scenes. Yeah, I think
so. That was even more acting than just basically performing a voice, right? You went into the character.
So often when people say, "Oh, you're a voice actor," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm an actor. I'm known for being a voice actor, but it's definitely acting."
How was it like working on Silent Hill? It's a big game. It's a scary game also at times. It's a game that has gotten many people talking about it.
Yeah, so...
And you're the face of it.
Well, fortunately, I can't play scary games. I can't play games at all, actually, unless it's like I can play a racing car, but like a horror game or anything scary, it's like, no. Well, again, I didn't know what it was a big deal. All these famous directors, and I'm just like, oh, hello, what's your name again? It's like, it's only in like years later I think, oh my God, that was a big deal, being cast in that game.
But it's kind of similar to the when I originally asked you about how you kind of got to work with Hideo Kojima, and you said you didn't really know who he was. It feels like not knowing and being a little bit distant from the thing might make it easier to kind of get into it and take it professionally and just, I'm going to perform the best I can for the role that I'm being asked to.
Yeah, because I had no nerves. It wasn't like, and even when people are like, I can tell by context that like, oh my God, this guy's a big deal, but it's just sort of, fly fishing champion of 2024. Good for you. You know, I'm not going to pretend I'm into that. So yeah, I kind of cringe a little bit, like how ignorant I am. So if people are sitting there going, "She's so ignorant," I totally am, or was.
Are there some projects that, now that you've been in that industry, that you now want to work on, where you'd like to be the voice of something? And
I have to get back to you about that. But yeah, right now there's a German company who I'm working with for anime, and they're creating a character that can sing. And I'm going to have to speak in. I keep looking at you. Because earlier you told me one of your brothers studying in German. I know that you're not German, but yeah. So I just so grateful, happy, excited to get work. So I like, unless it's something really, and no one's ever offered me anything terrible, I'm just like, sure, okay, yeah, sounds good.
Take it as it comes.
Yeah.
From that first cup of tea you were served in a hotel with a little cookie, and that experience jumping into teaching that you left pretty fast, it seems. Quite a career. And you've decided to also take that a little bit into your own hands and not only work in the acting and singing, and you started your own companies as well, which we have some of the products here, which are very interesting. Hot Teas, which is basically, if I may say so, Kairo, what Japanese people use here, heating pads. And here we have Royal Flush, which is a sound generator for the toilet, which both seems to be very common products here in Japan, but
they're not.
You're exporting overseas. What made you kind of get into entrepreneurship and say, all right, I'm here in Japan, I'm a singer, I'm a performer, an actor, but I'm also going to start a company with heating kind of pads and toilet sound covers.
So these are, for people who are don't live in Japan, the Japanese use heat pads like we use painkillers. So if you got a pain, they would go for a heat pad, And their heat pads would stick on your clothes and they would last for 14 hours. So, but in Australia, you just take a pill. Oh, my neck. Oh. So you just take a painkiller. And so when was this? Early 2000s? I was taking this is 440 grams. So if you take about 6 packs, that's like 3 kilos. And I was getting done I was having to pay excess baggage because I was taking so many of these back for my family. And I was like, I can't believe no one has ever thought to bring these to Australia, because my family are pretty healthy and they're all begging me for them. So I got my singing manager at the time to go to the convenience store, buy a few packs, contact the manufacturers and say, can they, what's your minimum order and can we make our own brand? So no business experience. I studied education at uni. If you had told me you're a really good business, I would have smacked you in the face as that's a terrible thing to say, that I'm good at business. That's was like a slur. Business people are sort of, oh God. But now if you say you're good at business, I'm like, thank you, because I feel like business is all it is. If you're good at business, you're good at helping people. So I love Japanese heat pads. I export millions of them. I help so many people with chronic pain. So that makes me really happy. And in all the chemists in Australia, you can find my product. And the next, I've just done a rebranding, and now I'm going to have in big letters, made in Japan, because there's a lot of competition from other countries. So it was oh, I can't believe no one's done this. It's so annoying. You can't get this. And I remember trying to sell my first container load, and people saying, I maybe try the hiking shops. This is a broad Australian accent, by the way. But you never sell them. You'll never sell them. This is Australia. But basically, a lot of women buy them for period pain. A lot of women are cold in offices and they have no control over the thermostat. So I love hotties. And then about 10 years ago, I noticed the Japanese toilet. Actually, I'll just show this. The Japanese in Japan. Do you have this in the men's toilet?
Some.
Okay. So you wave your hand over it. And you hear, this one is birdsong, water, and like a forest sound. But apparently in the late 80s in Fukuoka, there was a terrible drought and they were trying to save water. And in Toto, which makes a lot of bathroom products, they noticed women would double flush. So they'd flush, and then they'd flush again, and they'd keep flushing so that no one could hear a plop, a splash, a fart, anything. And that was like privacy. That was like courtesy. It's rude to make my fellow people hear this. And as an Australian woman, I totally relate to this because I don't want anyone hearing me. And it's like, really, you get into a public toilet, no one's here. And then someone comes in. I thought I was just going to go over to everywhere. And now I have to hold it in. And even though it's a drought in Australia, I don't give a stuff. And off I go, flushing water. Or this is me with like a toilet paper. Mm-hmm. I get as much toilet paper. It can't. So the Japanese, they came up with this, and it saves heaps of water. So now when I go to other countries and I sit down, I'm like, I'm not in Japan. I hate it. And in America, like the gaps between the toilet doors are like this much. You could say hello to the person underneath, so you can hear everything. So not only I'm hearing myself, I'm hearing everyone. So the Japanese, I just want everyone to have Japanese toilet culture in the world. So 10 years ago, I said to my friend, you got to do this. It's a brilliant idea. It's not my idea, but someone's going to do it. You should do it. I'm too busy. I've got too many things going on. Anyway, last year, still no one's done it. I thought, stuff it. So thank goodness for the Shinkansen, because when I contact people, they're like, you want to what? So I contacted the manufacturer of this product, and they like, the Japanese are very conservative. They don't want to export. They don't want to have any trouble. So I said, it's fine. You just sell to me in Japan, and I'll take care of everything. And I'm the Shinky lady. And they're like, oh, we should have said that at first. Of course. And they rolled out the red carpet, and it made them feel very safe that I must be a good person, an honest person to do business with if I'm doing the Shinkansen voice. So that's my latest thing, Japanese toilet culture.
It's kind of interesting to go into such niches, all the while performing and singing and exporting this. But you said something interesting about originally the idea of doing business kind of being a bit like, I don't want to be doing business. But then you said if you're good at doing business, you can help a lot of people and succeed at what you do. Do you feel like that was also something you learned through your career in the arts, in singing and so on, the need for understanding business, how it works, working with people, and kind of building relationships that lead to the great performances you've done, the great video games you've worked on, and so on?
Yeah, and I think people are really scared of failing. But if you, like for me, because if I'd gone to, Yale School of Business, there's probably people like, there is no such thing as, but anyway, if I'd gone to some fancy college, there'd be like, there'd be pressure. There'd be, you've got to come up with a great idea. You went to, you studied business. You must be, but for me, I have nothing to prove. I've got nothing to live up to, but I can't not try this. And it's kind of annoying. Like, it's like, it's insisting. It's like a voice in my head, go on, just try, just contact, so it's lots of little steps, like making a CD. You have to lay down this track and then lay down that track, and you can't do it all at once. It's just bit by bit by bit, and at the end of it you've got a fantastic 12 songs that sound amazing. And the same thing with this. It's just like you do this and then you have to do that. And if there's no like for Royal Flush, I have enough money, so it's not like I want to make lots of money. It's like, no, I have enough. It's just annoying that people are putting up with this when there's a solution, and I just want to provide the solution. And then when people go, like the first woman who bought it in Australia, she bought 2, and she had literally got off the plane from visiting Japan. She was in bed, and a hubby goes to the ensuite bathroom, big long pee, noisy pee, and she's like, I can hear everything. And she puts a bedside light on, gets a computer out, Googling Japan privacy, noise, Japan noise, toilet, can't find anything, goes to sleep. Next night happens again, damn it! And she found my website, and then she ordered 2. And then I jokingly sort of asked her if I'd saved her marriage, and she said yes. So I'm saving marriages. It's I'm keeping romance
from participating
alive.
in them and kind of officiating them with music to saving them with Royal Flush. It's all connected.
Oh my God, I love it.
What were some of the biggest learning experience from you for like actually getting into business and organizing, structuring the business, finding the suppliers, creating the brands, and actually finding ways to export this overseas?
Oh my God. Well, I think the biggest thing that I had to learn was managing a staff, because I'd never, like being a school teacher, right? I can see what you're doing. You're just ordering people around. And then when you have staff, you have to, you can't just order people, you have to grow them, you have to coach. So that was a big learning curve, and it sucked a lot of energy, actually. Oh God, I don't know where I'd start.
You focused on very practical products that solve very specific problems. Do you already have other ideas in mind of things you want to start?
No, and I hate it when people do this, Tobias. You know, someone will say, "Oh, you know what you should do? You should do the thing that puts a noise, like puts a smell on the toilet." And when the people do that, I'm like, when was the last time you did a product? Because it's so exhausting just getting this far. And when people say, "Oh," I feel like, well, you go and do it. I get a bit shitty, actually. Sorry, we can cut this out later.
Or we can just leave it in as it is, as was recorded.
Like, when was the last time you launched a product? Huh? No, never? Yeah, well, just keep your suggestions. Okay.
Nearing 30 years in Japan. That's quite a career you've had here. And you came here with basically no expectations and no plans, but somehow you decided to stay throughout. Was there a moment in time where you kind of thought to yourself, well, I'm just going to stay here for the long run. I'm not planning to leave. Or do you still today feel like you're just taking it as it comes and go along with whatever opportunities come your way?
I think for the first 2 years, I didn't know if I was going to stay. So it was sort of, it was all so new and different. And it was like, oh. And also I met my husband here, English guy, and he loves it here. He's been here 40 years. So the other thing about Japan, it's like it's in the same time zone as Australia. So I can FaceTime my mum driving home from work, or it doesn't feel like maybe you with your, coming from Europe.
Yeah, it's quite a difference.
A disconnect and like, oh no, they're asleep. So if ever my family comes to mind, I can just pick up the phone right then and connect. I've seen a lot of people age in place and die well in Japan, so I'm not frightened of staying here. One thing I love about Japan is that I feel like I'm in the center of the universe. So here's Japan, there's the US, there's Europe, and there's Australia. And it's all like 10 hours, 12 hours.
It's kind of interesting that you say this, because I just visualize what you were saying, and there are world maps. And where I grew up in Europe, in the south of France, all our maps have Europe in the center, right? So for me, the image of Australia is like, well, that's like the far end of the world. Like, who goes to Australia? I need to fly for I don't know how many hours. But Europe is always at the center. But then there are some maps here in Japan, and when you look at them, well, Japan is at the center. Yeah. And then like the map we have right here just behind us, which can't be seen fully on video, but Japan is at the center. And looking at the world this way, it does make sense, right? There's a big ocean behind us, but otherwise it's... So it does change perspective depending on how you look at the map.
Yeah, and I think especially before COVID, I was thinking I was going to be traveling and performing all over the world, and I hope to continue to do that. And so being based in Australia, it's a long way from everything. But then it depends where you are. You're a long way from anything, right? So
performing all over the world, still a dream of yours to perform in more places?
Not a dream. It's going to happen.
Is there a specific place you'd like to perform, a specific concert hall that you'd like to...
Yeah, I'd love to... I'd love to perform at Royal Albert Hall in London. I've never performed in London. I'd love to perform in Rome, Barcelona. I haven't done a Europe tour, so I'm hoping Metal Gear in concert, the fans will, when their new game comes out and we get some more younger fans, that will... I feel so excited about Metal Gear because it was sort of like 2015. And every year I meet people like, oh yeah, my dad likes that game. Whereas when it comes out, it's going to have a whole new generation of people who then will go back and discover the games that I was in. Actually, I forgot to tell you, because of the Shinkansen, Kojima gave me a voice acting job in The Phantom Pain simply because of the Shinky voice.
Really?
So I was being interviewed on a Kojima report, and the staff was saying, do the Shinky voice. And so I was like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Shinkansen. And he was watching, laughing. And then he said, like, can you do that voice? Because he could see I don't talk like that. I said, can you do that voice? I said, yeah. And he goes, I mean, you can do that voice in another thing, not just for a train. I'm like, sure. And then, you could see the light bulb go off, and he said, I want you to do the Shinkansen voice for the iDroid. And just that calming, motherly, smiling. Meanwhile, people, getting blown up, and but that's what the inspiration was. So that was pretty cool.
It's fascinating to me how so many of your opportunities you've gotten is like you do one thing and that leads to the next and leads to the next, and it's kind of all connected. It's kind of a fascinating story to hear you go through all of this. And I'm sure we could go into many more details and many more stories, like Tokyo Ghoul, big manga.
Have you watched it? It's pretty scary.
Yeah, it is.
I couldn't watch it.
But you've done the song, right? You've been Glassy Sky, right?
Yeah, that's a beautiful song. I still get people like every year on YouTube they're saying, 2020, is anyone else listening to this song? In 2021, I'm still here, and now it's 2024, and people
soon 2025. By the time this is out, it's going to be 2025.
Oh right, yeah. So 10 years it's been that song. It's like. Yeah, that was a big year. Since The Father finally came out, and I'd released an album, 5 songs in an album for Konami, and then Tokyo Ghoul again. I sang that song not knowing that it was going to be a huge hit, that Eminem would sample someone covering me. It's like incredible.
Have you gotten to meet some of your own stars through your singing?
What do you mean?
Well, everyone has people they look up to, whether they are singers or performers, actors, whatsoever. But now you've become one of those people for many. And maybe through your work, you've been able to collaborate with singers you personally looked up to. Or, I guess a lot of people will be envious of you working together with Hideo Kojima. But maybe you've had people that...
No, I think they don't envious. They're probably watching it going, she's an idiot. She doesn't even know that she's dealing with legends, and she's like, I'm going to cut short your party and go to a rehearsal. I'm sure I have, but I can't think off the spot. But I'm excited for a Metal Gear Solid movie. So I'm actually Snake, the voice of Metal Gear Solid. David Hayter and I, we're working on a project together, a TV show, not related to Metal Gear, but I've met, again, because of Metal Gear, I've met this incredible guy, David, and through him met a producer that I'm working on another TV show, because another thing I do now is I'm a writer. So I'm working on a couple of TV shows. They're in development. One's in development with Screen West in Australia. I feel like Metal Gear and Tokyo Ghoul and everything's really opened. Like who the hell's she? And I'd like to say I'm the voice of the Shinkansen, but that doesn't really cut it. But having all these games is really gives you a platform to be able to launch into a new career, which is screenwriting.
So I guess for everyone listening to this, we will be listening, reading, and
maybe watching.
Experiencing or watching a lot of your work in the near future. Donna, thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your story. Do you feel like we covered it generally? Do you feel like there's something that you would have liked to share with us today? Does Andrew behind the camera feel like there's a question that I did not ask?
Now he's like, I have no questions.
So it seems like we're all good.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you so much for having me. I had such a good time.
Thank you for making the journey and sharing. Super interesting. I'd love to have you back in the future. Maybe we can see what some of these projects have become by then.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for listening and watching. This was Unpacking Japan, and we will be back again next week. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future conversations. And we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this episode, here are a couple more that we think you'll enjoy. Thanks again for your support, and we'll see you next time.